Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Hudak. All right, Saints put a button on a 3-day mini camp on Thursday. Maddy Hudak was there right now. She's here. Maddy, we always appreciate it. How are you?
I'm doing good. I do have a message for you, though, from Mike Atelier that he has your I Survived line camp shirt waiting for you.
Okay, fantastic news. I'm glad to hear it. I think by now, after all these years, every year, Coach Pete and Coach Rod end up giving me a new shirt. So I have like the one I wore 25 years ago, whatever it was. And then every year they keep giving. So I have this stockpile of I Survived line camp shirts. They're pretty fire, though. I love it.
And glad you're surviving a weekend that you're not experiencing. But I guess when you go through it, you perennially survive.
I know. It was a hellacious experience, but had a lot of fun. I would assume this mini camp was probably a little more low-key. So takeaways, 3 days, mini camp. We know, like, no pads or anything like that. If I said, what was your biggest takeaway, what would you say?
Just the air feels different. It feels, again, like everything is kind of coming together because of what's going on under center at quarterback, but also how they're using other players in a more creative way as a result of that. Like, just the fact that Alvin Kamara has been so involved as a receiver and really impressed every single day with the catches that he's made and getting the tight ends involved, having Taysom Hill work with the tight ends one day and then running a 2-minute offense today. And everyone seems to kind of be enjoying figuring out what versatility they can bring to the team, as well as just really good competition at some positions. The fact that there's a genuine CD2 battle between Paulson Adebo and Alontae Taylor is probably the best problem that a team can have. So it's been really positive, and there hasn't been any injuries that have really soured the vibe of camp. Chris Olave wasn't there today. Is having something with his Achilles, but you expect a little bit of pulls and whatnot. But it just feels like for all the turnover, especially at the most important position, it's already very consistent and feels like business as usual.
Okay, so Dennis Allen did say the competition at kicker. He mentioned receiver and cornerback, or really just in the defensive backfield. And Maddy, my thought is, okay, it's Lattimore, Adebo, Taylor at nickel, and you got Tyrann Mathieu and Marcus May at safety. If it's anything other than that, you got big problems. So we're saying that there's a legit battle here with Alontae Taylor, Paulson Adebo. How might this play out? What does that mean, trickle-down effect here in that defensive backfield?
Well, just my personal opinion is that they've been trying Alontae Taylor out in the slot for a reason, and it's a very specific skill set that you can't just slot any guy there and have it work out. And you can just kind of see how specialized that skill set was with C.J. Gardner-Johnson. But Bradley Roby is an okay option there. I think it's just a question of, is Alontae Taylor a better cornerback? And maybe it's matchup dependent. But watching the way that he shut down DeAndre Hopkins and Devontae Adams after being on injured reserve for a lot of the season and was not that involved in training camp that year either because of injury, his game speed is just really impressive to me. And if you can have two lockdown corners out there on the field at the same time, you get a lot of the ball skills and shutting down deep passing attacks. I think that they lost with Marcus Williams with the range that he offered at safety if you have those two guys on the outside. But at the same time, if no one can play slot in the way that Alontae Taylor can, Paulson Adebo is still a really good cornerback, and so it might make more sense for him to go there. But I think his play last year on the field with everything that was kind of dropping like flies around him has kind of just demanded it as a question worth asking.
Stay on the defensive side. Brzee and Foskey. Any takeaways from the rookies in this minicamp?
Not really. So I just had Mike on as a guest on my show, and we were just talking about, he described it as pajamas and slippers for the O-line and the D-line during this time because, like Peyton Turner got a sack yesterday during the 2-minute offense for Derek Carr and when they were doing a 2-point conversion attempt. But I've seen him do that in training camp several times and then actually not see anything happen on the field. So it's been kind of irritating because that's really the position groups I think people are the most curious about. And You just really can't see that much from what we're seeing. What was more interesting to me yesterday was that there were a couple of reps they ran where Andres Pete was at left tackle and James Hurst was at left guard.
Wow. Okay.
And Andres Pete was, I believe, a left tackle at Stanford,
He
and
was.
they had moved him into that guard role, right? But does that say anything about Trevor Penn? It's hard to say, but it was very noteworthy because we really haven't seen them move Andres Pete out of that position. We've seen them play around with Cesar Ruiz, I think, a little more, who hasn't been present and it hasn't really been clear why. But I do worry more about depth on the offensive side of the ball in the trenches. At the same time, I think that's a positive because I think that the defensive line is probably the biggest hole going into free agency in the draft. And you at least have enough there to really work with.
No, that is interesting, Maddy, about Pete. That's an interesting observation. I mean, he was a left tackle, and we have seen him at times play emergency left tackle when they've had injuries. There were times where they would kick him out and play there when Armstead was injured. So there is maybe something to that, just trying to develop some depth there. But that is interesting, something worth keeping an eye on. Maddy Hudak's with us. She's on Twitter at Maddy Hudak _94, HUDAK _94. Go back to the offensive, because you're right, Maddy. It's so, like, we all want to see the linemen, but it's when it's, as Mike would say, pajamas and slippers, you can't really tell very much. I understand. So we do sort of focus more on the skill guys. So you did say something interesting about Alvin Kamara catching the ball, and that was his forte the first 3 years. We had more than 80 catches each of his first 3 seasons. Now, we've seen those numbers drop, in part, I would assume, because of injury. How much does it look, Maddy, like the offense that we saw early in Kamara's career, or are we seeing changes and evolutions now without Sean Payton?
It's a kind of a chicken or an egg question of, is it just, this is kind of his 4th year and maybe that vision kind of comes to life when you have Derek Carr under center and you haven't had a guy under center that I guess has allowed you to be creative enough with your usage of Alvin Kamara. I don't think that's necessarily a good thing to say or that you can kind of use that as an excuse, but it does seem like you're kind of more used to him catching those out of the backfield on just kind of the short wheel routes, but it's the fact that they're lining up in these 4 receivers sets and he's been split out wide pretty consistently, even catching like back shoulder throws. That's something that Drew Brees used to throw to him, but I don't know if the quarterbacks under center have been able to kind of get past the level of just hearing the way that Derek Carr describes the intricacies behind throwing to a tight end versus a wide receiver, just in the way he talks about his conversations with them. I have to think that there's a certain level of what they were just simplifying the offense into last year or the year before. But it's going to be really unfortunate if Alvin Kamara gets suspended, just for lack of a better way to say it, because he has looked probably at his best as a receiver, and that's really exciting to see after nothing in that sort last year.
Maddy, before you go, do you have any real take, opinion, viewpoint on the place kicker battle that is reportedly brewing right now?
Yeah, I wanted to actually mention that because today I was standing kind of in the end zone view, if you will, and all of a sudden Blake Rope, who looks like he's my size, and I'm 5'3", it says on here he's 5'7", 160, and I really don't buy that. But you could just, the way he opened up his hits to kick, I hope Brooke Kirchhoffer with NewOrleansFootball.net will try to kick an extra point, and we're both soccer players, and it's such a non-intuitive way to kick a ball. And I've talked to a lot of guys that are former soccer players that go into that role that struggle with that, and I did look it up, and it looks like he played soccer, but his mechanics, it was really windy today. The flags were going absolutely nuts when we were leaving, and he made every single one, and it had just this arc where you don't really worry about the placement of where he was on the field. It was fascinating enough to even ask that question, and I think that's just less about Will Lutz and really just more about Blake Rope really having a hell of a day in a windy setting.
Okay. That is one that is going to be fascinating as they move through camp. We'll be following. Maddy Hudak on Twitter at Maddy Hudak _94. Follow her there. We always appreciate it, Maddy. Thanks for the time.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to camp.
All right, be well. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.